Well, that gives you just an example. You can fill in your own name there if you're in one of those top 50, I bet. And now we're going to move on to the top 10 tips for raw beginners. And this is going to be fun. You can do three or four of these 10 things today, and you can do the next three or four the next day. So within 3 days, you could actually do them all if you were motivated enough and you had a 3 day weekend. But you'd have to be a real fanatic, and that's what I was, I'm telling you. So here are the top 10 tips without more ado. Number one, let's start with number 10. Number 10, start visiting with other researchers. Very easy thing to do once you get started, and you can share your tips and your frustrations, and you'd be surprised how much help you can get, not only from a friend, but from a friend of a friend. And that's you can get that in all kinds of ways, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Number 9, looking for the local obituary column. That should be one of your goals. And of course, you can do that at the library. You can do that by calling newspapers, even. It depends on what kind of area you're in. And of course, the web, that's a snatch that you just go right there and you can start typing in names of newspapers and dates. And there's organizations that do nothing but collect these obituary columns for you. And remember, when looking, you're going to look for different dates on those obituaries. If a fella died on the 5th, it may not get listed in the paper till the 7th or 8th or 10th, or maybe it got listed. Could it get listed before he actually died? Well, one thing's for sure, it can get listed before you think he died. You might have a record here that said he died on December 5th, but unbeknownst to you, he really died on November the 27th. So be sure to be flexible in all your research you're doing. Search before the date you're after and after. And what might you find on an obituary? Well, if you're lucky, you might find a thing that say, oh, good old Peter O'Loughlin went back to Ireland when he was a boy and got himself a wife back in 1864. And if that happens, you're real lucky because it might give you a town too. And if it gives you a town and a date and a country, ooh, and a county even, the county's the key to this research, then you're in really good shape. Okay, that's number 9. Oh, and the library can help you with those obituary columns, and they can also guide you towards newspapers, and those fellow researchers, they can help you too. Number 8, checking census records. Hey, you definitely want to check the census records, and that's probably the most consistent thing you can check out in America. And of course, you'll want to do that in the other countries too, like Canada or Ireland. And the recent censuses are good. Some of the old ones are gone forever, but you just have to hunt and peck. And the federal records centers here are really good, and they have them scattered all over the country. I've got them listed in the Beginner's Guide to Irish Family Research there, and you can also pull them up on the web just quick as a jiffy. So number 7, look for your name in the Irish Birth Index. Now that'll give you the county, the most likely county your name came from if you don't have the county. And like I said just a little bit ago, the main thing you have to find in the beginning of your search, you're looking for the county of origin in Ireland, because the records are mainly organized on a county basis. So if you go into that Irish Birth Index and you find the name, I published that Irish Birth Index too to help beginning researchers, and it gives surnames, not first names, but the surname, that's your last name, and it tells you what county it's most popular in. Many names are just popular in one county, so that sort of gives you a good guess at where your county is going to be, and it might guide you in that direction as you're putting this puzzle together. Now, if you find 2 counties, you got to keep that in mind, and you might want to start checking for first names in your family, because sometimes, strangely enough, first names in a certain era or during certain years might be common to one county and not to another. You have to keep your eyes open to the whole picture. So you're going to look for your name in that Irish Birth Index, and you're going to have to remember they might have been changes in the spelling, but the sound might be the same. So that's number 7. Find your Irish county in the Irish Birth Index. Number 6, visit the cemetery and make a note of the names and dates you see there. You might even see some changes in spellings and some dates that prove to conflict with other people's dates they've given as you go along in this process. So make a record of that. You can do it yourself. Just take a check, and hopefully somebody's going to tell you what cemetery your people are buried in. Library can help you with that too. Now, number 5, Visit your library for all these things we've been talking about. And also, you can find out a little bit about the history of the area that you're researching in your home country, America, Ireland, Australia, Canada. And you can also find out if that library has a genealogy group that meets there. And if they don't meet there, they're sure going to know about them because those genealogists are just all the time in libraries. And libraries have free computer usage a lot of times too. So there's another reason to visit your library. Number 4, talk with the oldest members of your clan. Very important. They might have some memories that are fading, but they might have the memories nonetheless. And next year may be too late. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the real old elders. It can be anybody that knows something that's been around longer than you or that has researched it. So talk with those folks now, write it down, and if you can, even bring along a little recorder, but talk to them first in person and then let them relax a little bit. Then you could turn that recorder on and be very casual, and you'll get a lot of information. A lot of times people will talk about things when it's person to person, and the minute that recorder goes on, something changes and they talk very formal and they don't remember some of the fun things. So I would talk with those folks and maybe record them after you talk to them first, if you can. Number 3, list 5 different ways to spell your name. We'll go over that a little bit more in depth too, but you've got to spell your name several different ways so you understand how flexible you have to be. Your name could have an O or a Mac before it, or it could have been dropped. If you have an O or a Mac before it now, it could be dropped either by the person using that name, or that O or Mac could be dropped by brothers in the same family. Maybe somebody just didn't want to bother with it. Maybe somebody wanted to be a rebel and say, I'm breaking off this family. I'll have nothing to do with you. That can happen. And that's more than just with the Mac and the O, the way you spell the middle of the name. Those vowels can be interchanged. So you're going to have to, and I've got a little bit about that in the beginner's guidebook. So list at least 5 different ways to spell your name. And if you want to get an A, you'll be able to list 10 different ways to spell your name. Just make some of those L's can be doubled or they can be single. EY can just turn into a Y. The letters can drop off. So give that some thought. Number 2, distribute your family tree chart to family members. You get that out there, and if you're writing anybody for anything, or you can fax it to people, or you can send a copy through the mail with a letter and just keep it simple and to the point, that helps them look at that and just understand what it's all about from the very beginning. And it'll even help you make corrections because anybody sees a mistake, they're more than willing to tell you that they know the answer. So that helps. And that leads us to the number 1 thing for the beginner to do, and that's make that family tree chart. I have a section on that, a couple of pages there in the beginner's guidebook. So you can do that today. You can do that in an hour. At least you can start. You just draw a line from left to right, and you put your dad's name on the one side, the left, your mom's name on the right side, and a line between them, connecting them, and you put some of their important information like when were they born? When did they die? When were they married? Where were they married? Where were they born? Put that in a very compact form, and you'll be able to see how the pros do it with some abbreviations too. But that's going to be important all the way along if you expect help from people. Just a 1-page tree chart is what I recommend you using to get off the ball, and you can be as complicated as you want to get on family tree charts. But if you're going to hand it to a stranger, I'd start out with just a simple 1-page chart that shows the man you're looking for and maybe his parents and maybe a generation of descendants, and just keep it simple, and it works really well. So those are our top 10 beginners tips from the beginner's guide, and we've got more to come, but I wanted to get that to you, and I want you to remember one thing. What do you need? What 4 things do you need that can reach anywhere in the world and accomplish darn near anything? Your library, your mailbox, your telephone, and now if you've got a computer, you can use your telephone. They've got Skype and services that make it free to call a computer to computer. If there's somebody with a computer in Ireland, you can do that free. So it's just amazing, and it's real cheap otherwise. But you can use your regular phone too. It doesn't matter. And of course, the newest thing in the world, since I started those searches, that's the computer itself. and it's just amazing. You wouldn't have think there were that many records out there that could have been discovered. And instead of having a couple of hundred, when I got my first computer and I typed Ireland on there, I think it was just like 373 entries came back that had the word Ireland in them, searching for web pages. And today, millions and millions of records are in several databases. One just got announced the other day. They were coming out with 4 million records on the online. So it's a little bit about learning how to use them now. There's plenty of records. You just got to know where the smartest place is to find them. We'll help you a little bit with that starting out. So this ends the first session. We're going to get into more detail on more things in just a little bit, but I thought I'd bring you up this far to show you sort of what you're in for and what sort of things you have to look for as a beginner. So we're going to end this up with the rest of that theme song we started out early and earlier in the session at the beginning, and it continues on like this. I traveled up to Boston, that city of great fame. I heard the Kellys living there had made themselves a name. The Kellys run the State House, the Kellys run the banks, the police and fire department, sure the Kellys fill the ranks. Dan Kelly runs the railroad, John Kelly run the seas, Kate Kelly runs the suffragettes, and she looks right good to me. Well, I went and asked directions from a naturalized Chinese, but he says, please excuse me, sir, me name it is Kelly. And there's Kelly from Dublin, Kelly from Sligo, little Mickey Kelly who came from the County Clare. Sure, Kelly built the pyramids with good old Galway granite, and when Kelly discovered the North Pole, sure he found Pat Kelly there. End of session 1B.